saw it was the brass knuckles. That was the one thing that was per se illegal. So they knew as soon as they saw it, they could confiscate everything, which says a lot, right? But you know, the question was, this man's in, he's in crisis, in PTSD, he's in crisis, and there was no good option for him. Because if we took him to the jail, he's not going to get the treatment that he needs. If we take him to the emergency room, you know, that could be endangering others in the emergency room. There was no real place dedicated to mental health. And so I think that this is a crisis, and I recognize Michigan is one of the worst states in dealing with it, and we're going to change that.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Glad to do that.
They're filming me. That's why he told me to put my cup down. He doesn't always order me around. Yeah.
A candidate from the party was talking about rolling back the Granholm tax increase.
Is he running against Jennifer Granholm or something?
I mean, that's crazy. We have a president that's still running against Hillary.
That's true.
What is your response to that?
Well, you know, first of all, there's so many things wrong with that, right? The most basic is the facts. The tax rollback was stopped by Governor Snyder and the Republicans. So let's just like start there. We'll continue with the fact that he talks about Jennifer Granholm more than anybody else. Well, that's pretty transparent, right? Mm-hmm. Like that's going to be the attack. The interesting thing is that he's got an ad attacking Hallie for being so much like Jennifer Granholm. Have you seen that ad? Go to YouTube. It's real. He says Hallie equals Granholm. So, you know, I think it's very desperate, frankly. I think he's going to have a very hard time selling that, but I understand the strategy, because in Bill Schuette's mind, that tough 8 years that Granholm was governor, he's going to use that against me. That's the ultimate plan, you know. And the Republican Party has already got a video that morphs me into her and then back to me with scary music, you know. But I mean, we knew this was coming. But here's the thing, all right? I can't wait to run against Bill Schuette. I really can't. You know, Schuette is bad on so many policies, and so he's going to try to play these games so that he doesn't get held accountable for the policies that he has supported, the things that he has done, the lives he has ruined during his time as Attorney General. For 8 years, he's been Attorney General. What's happened in Michigan? He took marriage equality to the Supreme Court and fortunately got his butt handed to him at the Supreme Court. He didn't do anything on behalf of the people of Flint for over 2 years while the community was being poisoned. If Frank Kelly had been our Attorney General, he'd have descended on Flint. And the first time someone showed up with a glass you couldn't see through, and you know that's true. And I think one of the things that he misses is that there have been 11 times in our state's history that there's been a man and a woman matched up on the statewide ballot in a non-presidential year. Regardless of party, the woman's won 10 out of 11 times. I think he doesn't understand the climate that we're in, the history of this state, nor the fact that I'll carry my own baggage, but I'm not going to carry anyone else's. I am ready to go toe-to-toe with Bill Schuette. Yes, sir, and then you, Commissioner.
What?
Right next to you. Yes, in the U of M jacket.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't wear the jacket. I know you live in East Lansing.
I know. Is that why you turned it inside out? Oh, okay.
I would still vote for you.
Hey, I can even bridge that gap. 2 degrees from MSU, but I taught at the University of Michigan. All right.
Well, I thought I'd do something different when I retired. What duty calls, and being a recent immigrant to Manistee from Ann Arbor, I'm here to try to meet people and meet you. I've been reading George Lakoff, and if there's anybody in the room that has not read his book, then you should read it.
Yep.
And one of the things that he points out is that elections are often run as if they're marketing the candidates, and the poll the issues, and they find out where people stand on the issues, and the issues are then the features of the candidate. And clearly have a good grasp of what the issues are. But he points out that people vote their identities and they vote their values. We're no different here in Michigan or anywhere else. I'm curious to learn how it is you're going to establish, your identity so that people can identify with who you are and how you can address people's values, rather than simply trying to school them on the facts, because there are plenty of people who the facts just bounce off.
Yeah. Well, I've read George Lakoff's book, and you're right. It's really good stuff. And that's why I never use the Republican language with regard to their attacks on collective bargaining.
Yes.
Because they call it right to work, and that sounds like a good thing. But the reality is that it's corporate servitude, and that's how we should be talking about it. But we'll get beyond some of the Lakoff lessons, and I'll just highlight a couple things. When I gave you my spiel, right? I talked about how I love our state. Identify with the great resources of the state, from swimming in the Thornapple River to fishing in Onekama. I told you about my kids, all 7 of them.
Fake news.
I told you about that I took care of my mom at the end of her life, and that I stayed in Michigan to be close to my family. I think these are core values that I meet people from all over our state who have very similar existences, very similar allegiances. I even told you I went to MSU and taught at the U of M. I'm trying to reach everybody here, but being a mom who wants her kids to stay in Michigan and to thrive here, and wanting that for your kids and your grandkids, that's the most core thing about my identity. I'm a lawyer. I was the former top dog on the Democratic side of the aisle in the whole state of Michigan government. I was a prosecutor. I was a professor. But the thing that matters to me most, that I want people to know about me, is I'm a mom. I love my kids, and I want them to be close by. One of my good friends recently moved away from Michigan. He was heartbroken about leaving his home state, but both his kids live in Oregon. They live near one another. One is gay and doesn't want to come back to Michigan because he thinks Michigan's an intolerant state. And frankly, until we amend our Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act, I get it. The other has school-aged kids, and she knows her kids have got better schools in Oregon than they will ever get in Michigan. And so they were not coming back, and so he figured if he can't beat them, join them. And so he's with his kids in Oregon. That's, I think, every Michigan parent's worst nightmare, right? And that's what motivates me more than anything, and I think that's the core of what I want to make sure that you know, and that I think we all share those feelings. I hope we do. Do you have any advice for me? I mean, I feel like you're thinking about this a lot, and
I'm still a student of the concepts of learning. I appreciate the fact that you're using the right terminology to not reinforce those things. That alone is a great start.
all right. Now we all have a reading assignment. George Lakoff, yes, Commissioner. Okay, Ron's telling me I got to jump on the road soon. Yes.
Thank you so much for coming up, Manistee. We really appreciate the time. The question that I have is actually regarding the revenue sharing in the state of Michigan.
This is what happens when you call on county commissioners.
Well, it's an issue that really affects our ability to fund our local services across our county and actually in our municipalities as well. And that funding has, in real dollars, declined since about 2002. And I'm wondering, as governor, what you would do to increase the revenue sharing to our local governments in order to do that.
So when I was in the legislature, when I was in the House, I was the top-ranking Democrat on appropriations. I ran all of the appropriations. Yeah. Good catch. So I ran all of the appropriations bills, and I was on the front line on fight to protect revenue sharing. I understand what it means to communities. we've also made it much harder because we've hamstrung you from revenue, locally. And so, I told you about when Governor Snyder first came into office and he gave a huge business tax break and how he paid for it. Business in Michigan is not paying their fair share. And I'm not talking about small business, I'm talking about, corporations in Michigan are paying like 2.4%. And we're all paying a heck of a lot more. So ultimately, I do think that we've got to have a much more logical and fair and representative tax structure in Michigan, and that's ultimately, I think, how we do better on that revenue sharing front. But I know that the infrastructure bank will help alleviate some of the pressures that you have. Assistance on the opioid epidemic will also do that. But increasing revenue sharing is something that I think is really important. I just don't know that I've got the $1 billion answer for how we do it at this moment.
You don't have an extra $1 billion for us?
She said that with such a straight face. And then I just have her mouth curled up. All right, Ron's telling me I gotta go, but I'm gonna do 2 questions real quick and then I'm gonna run. Yes, go ahead.
I'll defer to Kathy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, my question is about the mineral oil leak in the Straits of Mackinac. And how did that happen? And is there anything being done?
Okay, so they believe that an anchor drag tore open this pipeline underneath the Straits of Mackinac. Thank God it was not line 5, because we would have gallons and gallons of oil leaking in. But we do have something toxic that is leaking into the Great Lakes, which highlights exactly why we need to shut down line 5. I'm going to create the Department of Great Lakes and Freshwater. Is one of the things that I'm absolutely committed to. This would be a department that would oversee water in Michigan. That means holding companies like Nestle accountable, as well as moving to shut down line 5. But also everything from algae blooms to lead in drinking water. Michigan is home to 21% of the world's fresh water. We are so fortunate, and we take it for granted. We are the worst stewards on the planet of it because of this abundance. We've assumed it would always be there. And yet we know as the climate changes, this is going to get more and more precious and rare and more important that we protect it. So I think say, let's harness the brains and the research universities and the water here in Michigan and become world leaders in water stewardship. And that's why I want to create this department to protect our water and to make sure that we all have clean drinking water for every Michiganer. Yes.
Hi, Gretchen.
Yes.
My name's Kathy Jessica, and I'm running for state rep, and I look forward to serving with you down in Lansing.
Excellent. I look forward to serving with you too.
As a former registered nurse for mental health, I appreciate your views on mental health. Also, my dad was a World War II vet, served on the front lines, and suffered from PTSD back when it was talked about being shell-shocked. So there was no treatment for it, but the family suffered greatly. So that's an area that is very close to my heart as well. So I thank you for coming, and I've appreciated everything you said and wholeheartedly agree.
Thank you. That's the best last question I got. So I just want to say thank you to everyone for making time to be here. I hope that you might consider helping me on this campaign. It's a Herculean undertaking running for governor. It is not for wussies. You should see the days that I have. But you know what? I said it earlier and I meant it. Every single day there is a person or a story or a thing that happens that reminds me what this is all about. This is not just an election. This is about our lives. And so if you'll consider helping me, whether it's making phone calls or helping registered voters or being a surrogate or showing up with our placards and bumper stickers and getting people organized to hit the grassroots, there's a role for everyone on this campaign. Thank you so much.
Thank you.